It's Friday night, and you know what that means. We're live, and JR is as ornery as ever. Oh boy, JR decided to get into that special sauce because he didn't give a shit during this show. I'm John Rant with my review of AEW Rampage from the Moxhegan Sun in Connecticut. Shout out to Wrestle Rant and his girlfriend Alexis. They were in attendance, and I hope they had a great goddamn time. And I know that Graham really liked seeing Marina Shafir in person, but I think that was her, but we still don't know her. If he's watching, Graham, I know you appreciate that. So, I will say that I like the fact that Rampage is live, and I will say that between live and taped Rampages, the only difference, the crowd sweetening isn't nearly as obvious on a live broadcast. They're really trying to make Rampage interesting. The thing is, initially it was, and I understand them taping it, because live TV is tough. Live TV is very, very tough to do. And, it's very costly. Even with Khan having, all the funds. And the fact they have a ton of wrestlers. And it's hard to draw crowds in so many areas like, oh, you're going to do this. Let's tape Rampage some weeks. Let's have it live other weeks. I get it. I do get it. But Rampage has been meaningless, honestly, for the last at least 6 months. There are a few bright spots, but overall, the ratings have shown. And yes, I know ratings aren't everything, but they are something. Nobody's watching this show. Like, what, 500,000 people at the most? Maybe 550,000? I mean, that's just not much. Dynamite's holding around 1 million, roughly. If they can't even get 3/4 of that for a decent time slot, I still say if they had it on just before SmackDown, the hour before SmackDown, they do better. But Turner or Warner Bros. Discovery or whoever basically saying, well, that's all right. You just be in this slot, but we want it live. We want more sports-based stuff. And the talents are trying. But again, the show just doesn't pop like it used to. JR, Excalibur, Shivani on commentary. Wild thing, you make Moxhegan sing. Moxley took on Matt Menard. And Parker was there. It was an AEW World Title Eliminator match. It happened. I don't really have much to say when it comes to 2.0 in the ring. I don't know why Menard acts like he got into Khan's stash. And Parker interfered, got hit with a cutter, no DQ called. I mean, I know he technically didn't touch Mox, but this whole idea is stupid to people that aren't in matches getting in the ring. Whether it's WWE, Impact, AEW, New Japan, it's stupid. They gotta cut down on that shit. It makes the referee seem ineffective. I don't even know who the referee was. And it made him seem stupid. Mike Tyson will be a guest commentator next week on Rampage. Oh boy, Mike Tyson with a live mic. Mox wins, by the way. And Stokely Hathaway comes out with Lee Moriarty. Let me just say right now that Stokely apparently is revered as a decent promo, or a pretty good promo. I can't take somebody seriously when they look like they could walk under the bottom rope without ducking, and they could walk under a closed door, and basically, if I were to talk over them, I could basically, sit down and I would still be able to talk over them. What I'm trying to say is it's hard to take Stokely seriously because he's very minute. And also his promos are kind of just the same. He's trying to shout and be all serious. And how about you face Lee Moriarty next week? And Lee Moriarty has a video package where I don't know what the point was. I've seen Lee in person. Talented guy. Likes to yell a lot. I don't know why. But Lee Moriarty's very talented. This whole firm thing is stupid. So, we're going to have a world title eliminator tournament. 8 people. The finalists will fight at Full Gear, and the winner will face, the champion at Winter is Coming. Which, if the champion is not MJF, I don't know what we're doing here. Dante Martin is going to be in the tournament. Okay. Where's Dante Martin been? I mean, guy's got talent. His brother, unfortunately, keeps getting hurt, so let's feature Dante a little bit. I know that he's probably on Dark Elevation and Dark, but I'm sorry. Those shows, pretty much, they're basically YouTube versions of Rampage. They don't mean much of anything, and it's sad because there are a few decent matches on there, but it's just all dark matches for people to watch eventually. So here's Jade. I said Jade. Okay, all right. Sorry. It was Jade, and she's asking what's going on with her TBS championship. I like Nyla. Get Nyla away from Vicky. Don't have Vicky in the company. Marina Shafir is a lost cause. Nyla is fine on her own. This is going to lead to a match, I imagine, at Full Gear. Which they might as well have it at Full Gear. I mean, we have what? 3 weeks? No. 3 weeks till Full Gear, about. I was trying to think about the day, because it's on the 19th. So, okay, you know what? Have it, if you got to have it on the pre-show, give them at least 10 minutes. Feature it at least, on the pre-show, or maybe in the second or third match. Give these women a chance to do something. Keith Lee beat Serpentico in longer than it took me to say those names. And then the Acclaim cut off Lee when Shivani was going to interview him. Hey, we haven't seen Swerve. We haven't seen Billy. Billy had a family emergency. What do you mean? And suddenly Swerve, which is better than suddenly Susan, I must say. Even though Brooke Shields, I still would, and you still would too. But Swerve's on the screen that's over here that you can't actually see. He's on the screen back there, but you can't see it because the TV's off. The whole point is he's got Billy in some, I don't know where the hell he had him, some warehouse somewhere, and he had him tied up. He had Daddy Ass tied up, and he's like, oh, it's a birthday bash next week? Well, you're not going to make it. No, you're not going to make it. Because he had pliers and broke his fingers, I assume. So he can't scissor with his boys. Did anyone call the police? And I like Swerve. I don't mind Swerve being a vicious heel, but this was hokey. This was really hokey. Like, hey, you interfered in my match, so I'm going to break your fingers. And Lee's like having to do this. They make Lee look ridiculous. Just have Lee and Swerve lose the match at Full Gear and feud. That's where this is going. I don't know. I don't know what the hell they were doing there. I do wonder if Swerve could be arrested for beating up and kidnapping the elderly. Will you be serious? So, now we do recaps of Chris Jericho Aniston, Chris Irvine, issuing an open challenge to any Ring of Honor championship. Let's talk about Chris Irvine for a second, because reports, covering my ass here, are out that CM Punk is not going to be walking back in AEW due to the fact simply that he's hard to work with, this kind of stuff, problematic. Okay, you know what? Let me just say right now, I'm not the biggest fan of CM Punk ever, but I appreciate what he did in WWE. I appreciate what he did in Ring of Honor, even though I've had to go back and watch that. And the guy's a hard worker. And the guy does think very highly of himself. He's really, really good on the mic. He's good in the ring. He's not great in the ring unless he's with the right people, but he tells good stories, and he did that in AEW. Now, I'm not going to say again that Punk is the easiest guy to work with, but Punk got them big ratings. He got them a couple $1 million gates, or at least one. And when he was part of, the pay-per-views, the pay-per-view buy rates went up, and the gates went up. And other stuff happened, like where he was a draw. He was a draw for a brief moment in time. Had he not gotten injured, had this whole thing just been left at words, had he just said he's frustrated and not actually used all those words and everything and aired his frustrations out right or wrong and continued, okay, sure, but he also is injury prone now because he busted his foot, then he came back and he got injured again. Or they got injured in the match, or injured in a scrum. I don't know. I don't care. Elite were wrong as well. Everybody was wrong in that situation, even though I stand by what Punk said, because he's right about the Elite. Everybody has seen it, except the blind fans. But nevertheless, the rumors are that Jericho said that he was a locker room cancer, that you're a cancer. Okay, so let's talk about what Chris Irvine said. And yeah, I'm going to use his government name, because it's funny to use the government name of a man that calls somebody in a locker room a cancer, yet his wife is a domestic terrorist that was there on January 6, 2021. The mother-in-law was there, and his wife's a goddamn insane maniac, and Chris Jericho donated tens of thousands of dollars to a man that has been credibly accused of by numerous women of various assaults, but also tried to overthrow a legal election. He's denied the pandemic, denied the legitimacy of COVID, various other things and everything. He held concerts in the middle of Sturgis, the motorcycle rally, and other places that were riddled with all this stuff. He would always deny the figures. He would always deny science. He always exposed himself as a goddamn piece of shit, especially the last number of years. Had Jesse Ventura on his Talk as Jericho show, and Jesse Ventura denounced the Republican Party and said, hey, they said nothing when people marched into the White House, or marched into the Capitol building and all that stuff and everything, and did all this and carried the Confederate flag, and how, Jesse served in the military and stuff like that, and that they should have apologized, and they didn't apologize. And what did Jericho say? He didn't say anything, because like anybody that supports Donald fucking Trump, or anybody that supports that ideal, he's a goddamn coward, and Jericho's been a goddamn coward. Now, he took down Goldberg in 2003, and he wanted to fight Brock Lesnar because he got worked by the fact that Brock and Orton did what they did, and sure, it was pretty violent at the end of SummerSlam 2016. But Jericho continues to expose the fact that he's a goddamn idiot when it comes to, I don't know, let's see. Let's talk about the fact that he considers CM Punk a locker room cancer, yet he can find the good in Chris Benoit. And calls out anybody if he says, if you think I'm glorifying a murderer, turn the show off right now. Well, Jericho, they should have turned you off. You should have been kicked off the goddamn show. Sure, he reunited Sandra and David Benoit, and that's great. That's great. He reunited the aunt and Benoit, one of Benoit's surviving kids that Benoit couldn't get to because he only had enough, enough pillows for Daniel. But no, that's okay. He murdered his wife and child and everything in cold blood, and was going to go to the pay-per-view possibly and wrestle, and was a cold-blooded murderer. But that's okay, because you had great matches against him, didn't you, Irvine? Didn't you, you noted piece of shit? Not that he will ever watch this. If you are a fan of Chris Jericho and you are upset by this, I really don't give a shit at this point. Chris Irvine deserves every bit of ridicule that he gets. He has killed the momentum of numerous people behind the scenes. The MJF feud, MJF did not come out of that unscathed. He had to continue to fight and claw back to get better and get out of that goddamn thing. Had it not gone on for a year, when it should have gone on for 6 months, that would have been one thing. Eddie Kingston, tons of momentum, got completely killed off. He lost to him at Revolution, and then then beat him in the Barbed Wire Massacre and beat him in a whole bunch of other stuff. Chris Jericho can't have a good match anymore. He's held numerous people down. He claims that he's helping the young people, claims he's doing all this stuff, all this great stuff for AEW, and yet numerous times, a lot of his segments, a lot of his matches have dropped dramatically in ratings. Now, sometimes when he's with the right people, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, people want to see that, they'll put up with Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has a lot of faults. Chris Jericho has done a lot of great things in wrestling. But he's also exposed his whole goddamn ass. He's also exposed the fact that he is a goddamn idiot. And is a parasite. He's a fucking parasite and a fucking goddamn cancer to professional wrestling. And also a cancer to AEW. And Tony Khan re-signed him for 3 more years. He's going to be a mentor to young talent and everything. Yeah, because that's succeeded so goddamn much. Look at Daniel Garcia, who's still a couple years away from being able to be seen as anybody credible. He's great in the ring. He needs more time. The fans were ready to embrace him as a face. Oh no, let's take it away, and then they'll really be ready for him to be a face. Now, they probably won't care as much. They probably won't. The Inner Circle worked for a bit. Stadium Stampede was his idea. Anarchy in the Arena was his idea. All bad ideas. Jericho has nothing but bad ideas, and when left to his own devices, that's proof of it. But again, let's sum it up. Let's fucking sum it up. Let's talk about something else here, actually. It's funny that Jericho's wife was part of, the insurrection attempt and everything, which wasn't a tourist attraction and everything, and fuck you if you believe that. The thing that happened with Nancy Pelosi's husband and Marjorie Trader Green talking about this stuff almost like she knew. These are the kind of people that Chris Jericho supports, and Chris Jericho has the same views as. And yet he's getting in there and putting the same mindset into people's heads. These are really good ideas. Go with this stuff. Chris Jericho's a true locker room cancer. And I want to say anybody that, decides to attack politicians like that deserves 100% to be arrested, flogged, and executed. And Chris Jericho is just as guilty of it as anyone else that donated to that goddamn piece of shit. And his wife's a goddamn idiot. His wife's a goddamn twat. Their children deserve to be ripped from their arms and put in a goddamn home where they'll be raised and loved and appreciated. And Chris Jericho always wants to play the victim. He filmed something because I guess one of his nieces or whatever got beat up. And that shouldn't have happened to the kid. Chris Jericho always wants to play the victim, always wants to donate stuff and say that he's a good guy. And he hasn't been a good guy for a number of years. So I don't buy what Chris Irvine happens to say. And the fact that he is still allowed on TV, the fact that he's still allowed to spout this stuff, and he's allowed to shout like a goddamn screeching old man. Oh, wait, he is a screeching old man. He's made more money than I or anybody in my inner circle, or really anybody I talk to on social media, will ever earn. And he hasn't deserved really much of any of it because he's put in terrible work after terrible work after terrible work. He was a great signing at first, and all he's done since, in the last 2 years roughly, is drag AEW down. So Punk's a cancer. Chris Benoit was a murderer. You want to continue to defend him? Irvine? Yeah, you got brain parasites in your goddamn head. You're a goddamn idiot. It's the end of the rant right there. Provided anybody's still watching, I'll put a timestamp in there so you can skip through that. Yeah. Speaking of goddamn twats, let's talk about Ty Mello with Sammy the Twat against Madison Rayne. Oh, hell no. Bold of you to assume I'm going to care about a Ty Mello match in 2022. Nothing against Madison Rayne. JR does not care one bit, was taking the piss out of this. Ty won. It was sloppy because Ty Mello, after this time last year, seemed like she was on the rise. Now she's just given up and is just injuring, or maybe not injuring, but being clussy with people. Poor Ruby Soho. I hope she recovers. Ethan Page promo. Him and the firm are going to take out Mox and MJF, and he's going to be in the tournament. Okay. I don't mind Ethan Page as an athlete, but he's damaged goods. Then Matt Taven with Bennett and Maria took on Wardlow. The Trend. I don't mind Matt Taven, but the Trend is not a good nickname. So there's a numbers advantage. Wardlow hurts his knee on a step spot. The referee has to be distracted by Maria. I would be too. And what ends up happening is they focus on his knee. Well, Wardlow gets his knee focused on by Taven. Bennett runs in when he can. Again, the referee gets distracted by Maria not wearing pants. Maria, by the way, looks fan-fucking-tastic for having 3 kids. Good job to her. Good job by her. Good job by Bennett. Good job by all these 3 getting contracts with AEW. They'll probably be part of the Ring of Honor brand, but nevertheless. And I like Mike Bennett. Mike's a good talent. Wardlow wins with the Powerbomb Symphony. And then Bennett attacks. Here's Samoa Joe. And then we get Hobbs. And then we get the Embassy. And we get Prince na hey hey na hey hey. And we just get a melee and a mess and everything. And it ends the same way Rampage always does. This is a long review, but that probably is due to the fact that I had to do a scathing rant on Chris Irvine. And he deserves it. And if he wants to continue to defend Chris Benoit, that's fine. He can call CM Punk a cancer, that's fine. Chris Jericho's the real cancer. Chris Irvine's the real cancer. The Irvine family are real cancers. Hopefully those kids can grow up and be smarter. They won't have to try to be smarter than their dad, and they damn sure won't have to try to be smarter than their stupid mother. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.